Time is scarce, I realize, and my preparations are humbug. But thank you for watching. I don't know when, if ever, my public videos will come to light among peers to be reviewed. But be that as it may, I do take the time to study affairs and editorialize. I'm not myself gifted or interested very much in the cyber era. But I have a former professor who's on the up and up in things like cyberpunk, who keeps me appraised of a generation's mindset and how things can play in the mindset of people who are involved in PlayStation fever, for example, and novels sensing themselves, coming to life with the vision of reality that where the revolution is spent. And what I want to address in this capsule, in part, is, as my title says, how we're falling behind on the get ahead ticket. As many people who've known me a long time realize, I'm interested in the ecology, global ecology movement, the Save the Planet movement. Phytoremediation, which means giving plants a chance to help us combat a toxic world. And of course, the fact that we're in a mass extinction has even captured the attention of equal opportunity employers like Exxon. Many of my struggles have been against the encrypted snivel of a leader that was organized. Now, of course, it's very petulant, and people are very petulant about the Andrea Dworkin view of mass industry of sexuality being exploitation of women. I mean, everybody knows that. The question is whether or not it should have been allowed to evolve into an anti-honor code and genocide pornography. Now, that's not news to people who follow me, although it might come as a shock to a newcomer. And the question of how COVID 19 came to play as part and parcel of an overall spin revolution where, after all, we're trying to save the planet gets superimposed on by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Big Brother has become Little Sister, and I love Greta Thunberg. She's been cast in this Moxieland role, and I'm trying to be helpful as possible as I can by showing how our generation has been boxed into a situation where we're being used and misled by a partnership between Trump and Putin. Geo Floyd, when he was choked to death, was very similar to what happened in the Ukraine and on January 6th, in that they steered the attention of the revolution at spin. I'm going to let you think about that a little while before I help you with that, because what I want to do is go over my notes slowly. I want you to realize that my notes are hard to read. They're written in the rain this morning, so I don't blame you if you tune out on that thought. But if you want to stick with me a little while, I'll talk to you about um, what I think about the hucksters on high, for example, in the Supreme Court of the United States, who kick around ideas like um, sort of chemical formulas and gyrations, and not necessarily that interested in a theory of justice that doesn't conform with impunity and getaway artistry. So when I talk about like the goal of my talks, one of my goals of my talks is to help contradict and draw into focus the laws of Congress so there can be a meaningful reform strategy. Because, like everyone else, I play the hot dog theme of faith in the American system and the European Union's view of democracy. And I'm not into dictators. I think dictators should be given safe exit strategy. You know, when they talk about making Putin into Saddam Hussein, you know, which the mainstream media is doing, it's counterproductive. I don't think it's helpful. I think the people who are dictators should be given safe exit. And their inability to design safe exit makes reform very difficult in those societies. So, having said that, I'll move on to some more of my notes. One of the things that they're doing is mongering TERP. TERP means interpreter. It's short for sign language interpreting. You know, I always encourage people to press the CC button if it's functioning on these videos, because it not only helps you follow what I'm saying, it helps you identify cues that are misleading when it's wrongfully and or mistakenly auto translated, because the computer can't always get it right, and sometimes hacks like to play a little tomfoolery over it. So as you can see, I don't. All of this is very interesting, and I've already said a great deal, but there's more to identify because what we're talking about is very specific information about what went on at Carnegie Mellon University. There was a guy called Celeron. Now, you know, these are computer scientists, so they use, you know, encryptions almost all the time. Celeron. And James W. Child showed up at the house of the Sellers, Julie Sellers. And Julie Sellers and Celeron had a soundtrack that they were getting. See, the idea was um, to brainwash a child and then exploit it to conjure the storyline about women being abused. You know, women were abusing me, but that's illegal to say. You're not allowed to say that. How did they abuse me? Like kick me in the head and the neuroplasm that they inflicted. It was like imagine you went into a coma from an accident, and when you woke up, your wife says, "I demand a divorce because you don't remember my name." You know, I mean, it's sad. I mean, it happens. It's a Trumpy tune world. But, you know, this is the sort of society that they conjured from Celeron, and they made this carrot tape that they implanted celery, Celeron, carrot tape, and then Pete Gabriel comes in with SO, which stands for security operations, sales opportunity, SO, you know. And they said that, you know, he doesn't remember our name. He doesn't remember our name. And kicked me in the head for coming out of a coma at all. I came too soon for them, as they put it. So this is their gyration, their moral gyration. And they played it as an arc. You know, Kate McFerrin and David Douglas, a roboticist, Paul Runko's advanced materials devices. He could blow up the world if he wanted to. He makes little poison things, probably. Don't know who. My dad got poisoned with something cancerous, it looks like. But David Douglas, Kate McFerrin were in the Bobby Yandel school. India represents what the black man is after, token of sex, right? So they play a Swapo, why not Swapo operation with Martin Sheen, Vince Irene, and the Celeron gang, which is also known as the Fernholder Bridge gang, where they intone, you know, the overdub of my having been held hostage by carrion birds from the sex industry when I was just a little child, who now come through Carbonell's office to handpack me, right? And they have this, you know, turnstile in Two Virgins Pussy Ball that allows the black man to get ahead by schmoozing with Midori Goto. And Ringo Starr and his friends actually made films where the semiotic subtext shows Telltale Tape 2 and Alias Little Boy. You can see it for yourself. The subtext intones that the master race is inclusive now. You see, the moral absolute is that the Bobby Yandel black man gets the Japanese token. And that this allowed Dr. Proctor and Nelson Harrison of Pitt to say that Will Zell Brown, who was advocating for Goebbels, was an honorary the black man. because he gave tribute to the black man and Obama and through Maduro Goto's services. And they actually poured out a mountain of swastikas and called them sacred African symbols. So, what's going on is the Green Party of Germany is cultivating black fascism. And it's in the name of democracy. See, they're intellectuals like Flip of King Crimson. He came out in 74 after they tortured me with USA Rest in Peace. It's a double entendre. And the mind veers like the limousine in Dealey Plaza. The Dorothy delays in Dealey Plaza from acknowledging that he's talking about Rest in Peace USA because there was a double entendre. King Crimson had been laid to rest. So your mind veers. It's like a little boy saying deicide after being brainwashed by the Watt makers about Yad Vashem. It veers. Deicide must, millions die, must refer to Gail Berson's terrible past in her family, like Zelensky of the Holocaust. So, your mind seeks out a plausible explanation. And what Foucault did was set up a spider web of revolutionist spin that the queers played into, where they were, groaning under the weight of working with the people who were in genocide pornography by veering away from it and saying it's a Trump between money bag and we demand the spoils, which is what they're still up to, denying that they're working with COVID-19 and stuff. And they have this, Japanese audition symbol, we're going to inject you, which comes from Will Zellbrome, so they're being very draconian about the right to have sexual freedom and so on. And the Alamo, glorification of the Alamo is like USA, rest in peace. Go glorify your Alamo, queer bait. We're with the Taliban, Saudi Arabian moral absolute show. They get a moral absolute out on the ice in Beijing and double play the idea of her being a sacrificial virgin, they take her from the ice and she has this expression of loss. And it's like a story of tests. That's the sort of the storyline that they play through the whole thing of Two Virgins Pussy Ball. So the revolution is all spin in that way. So you can see that this comes down the intellectual circuit from the University of Pittsburgh, where they had the Vienna Circle, people like Martin Heidegger, who were questioned at Nuremberg and lived to tell the tale. Because what they're up to is an intellectual gyration that actually makes sense in a weird way, which is the innocence reborn in the next generation. You see, then they have Trumpetunians saying no one is innocent. Whose innocence, mine or yours? And they're gobbling up for, as the queers put it, millions of dollars. Yeah, well, the whole point is it's not how they say it, but what their rapture is. Pittman, when he tortured me as a child, told me if I didn't steal him lunch money from my mother, he would kill me. That's what the queers are still up to. That's what the whole Quarryman operation is up to. It's a granny scam. They knocked off our grannies and they want the payola. CMU has a Hoover vacuum cleaner sucking up the money bag for Croker or Yoko Ono, whoever represents Lenin in the syndicate. But it came down through ACR, a German group of alternative conflict resolution working with the Celeron gang. What were they really doing? Schulman was ripping off the Carnegie for millions of dollars, working with Piers Gabriel's clever personal assistant in law, Amanda Harcourt. And I've gone into it in other videos. Diamond de Gaulle had a namesake who called me the night they claimed Lenin checked out, and left the Texas school book for the revival campaign of, Sucre Hueso. And you have Franklin Graham was with Lazarus, who was formerly Hitler. It's in his book. He calls Hitler back from the dead, and they're crying and weeping away. Yay, Jubilee, Hitler's back from the dead. So the Moxleyland business is rather vulgar on some levels. So they're mongering Turk, like McFerrin is like interferon, which was a cancer theory, and McFerrin, McCartney and Reagan's fairness in two versions of Pussy Ball, Nexus. So they for years they were putting up 87 because I wrote an article called None Dare Call the Poison, and that captures all right. They put don't know who on my father's obituary with the German Green Party. So the stroke of brilliance is to militarize Europe and then shake hands and say, let's get on with it. And I don't want anything to happen to the younger generation either. But these snivelers come up with this idea of witch doctors and hucksters on high, a Swami Nostra. The people who Yusu Andor, because Yusu Andor was a piping hot stepping fetcher for Penis Gabriel. And he comes gyrating with Spike Lee and Tracy Chapman. We're going to have a spin, a major spin operation here now. Talking about a major spin, Talk about a major spin, they're gonna come to say the big sale. Yeah, we're gonna have a picture of Spike Lee on the wall at the White House, and Black Man's going to get good. Well, the point is that they just subordinate all this stuff under escalation dominance to the witch doctor. Ayn Rand had an essay called Attila and the Witch Doctor. The witch doctor believes in law, he believes in ethics, he believes in clean play. His name is Robert Flip, but above him is the ogre Ringo Starr. And he shuts everything down with escalation dominance, and everybody does like this here, like this here. Yeah, while he steals from the museums and lies about his former partner and just picks off the USA and puts rest in peace and sells Gail Burst. And so you have, these Moxie interceptors, they call themselves, working through alternative conflict resolution, which was German revenge, private revenge specialist operation run by Martha Hardy Shines at Carnegie Mellon for the Celeron gang, who was, of course, ripping us off right and left. And they own the streets of Pittsburgh. I mean, the Fern Hollow gang looked at the bridge and said, I'll have to go another way now. They didn't say, why didn't somebody fix this bridge? Why didn't somebody look into it? It's because they was after the big, big money. So, you follow the getaway ticket and you see what my system is, which she says her colleagues feel these days like they're pouring from an empty cup. It's not that we're pouring from an empty cup. It's we're not keeping up with the Joneses when it comes to how clever these snivellers are. So when you get off on saying, oh, Jimmy Creary looks at memories in the web of the love that he has lost, I think you should get a life. And I'm just explaining why you should get a life, because they're going to take yours with failure to apprehend what they're really up to. I'm not saying we don't need to come together as a society and a species, Mr. Joe Biden. I just don't think pussy ball and scamming our grannies is necessarily the honorable way to go about it. I think Mick Rodney has a good way with words these days. That pucker face cretin Putin. I don't want to get into a bloodbath any more than anybody else does. But his mausoleum is where honor and truthfulness go to die, because I was listening, paying attention to his complaints about Donbass, the Minsk agreement. So was Chomsky. So was a lot of honorable. And he made us all into suckers. How many more suckers plays are we going to get from Trumpy, Tune, and Putin? We get January 6th. We get the cyber spin stuff. Ukrainians are taking up arms and Germany's going to rearm. Boy, that's a stroke of genius. So instead of all that, I think Russia should back off and let people have some peace of mind in this world. But I don't want to get too conflicted, because they'll escalate in order to drown out the truth about the granny scam. That's what Geo Floyd was doing. They execute him to get the black people into the streets for Black Lives Matter. So nobody wondered why COVID-19 wasn't actively sought to intervene to prevent it before it happened. Because after all, I was trying to protect queers from themselves. And they were busy trying to justify poisoning me in the mouth, murdering Cersei Kennedy, and all the ridiculous things that Ringo Starr pulls through UW dialectical. I mean, that's what it comes down to. We're not talking about Putin and Trumpy Tune. We're talking about Putin, Trumpy Tune, and Ringo Starr. It's and they're conjuring a goddamn slaughterhouse. The best hope right now is to bring the thing to some sort of military standstill so that people start looking at their common humanity. That's the best hope. I'm not trying to intone anything like we should blow up the world to get even for COVID-19. I don't believe that. I don't think we should blow up the world to get even about AIDS. I don't believe that. But that you have to understand that the queer gesticulators who want me, the Black Panthers want to have a barbecue. Oh, you don't want to blow up the world? Well, how about if we inject you? And they're doing it for Trumpy thing.